Welcome into the Denver Sports Podcast presented by Breckenridge Brewery. I'm your host, Allie Monroy. With me today, I've got Henry Chisholm, Eric Wedum / D-Line, Drew Creasman, and AJ Haefele. And of course, the mood in Denver sports right now is pretty somber. I was about to say somber, like Ray Jokic.
Yeah, it's not shuffling. It's more depressing. It's somber, not somber.
That's where my brain's at. I don't even know words right now. The Avs lost. They were officially eliminated from the 2021 Stanley Cup playoffs yesterday. And the Denver sports as a whole is on a 4 or 5 game losing streak. Besides Rockies were able to win one of them. But they lost yesterday, right, Drew?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if I include Rockies, it'd be a lot worse. So we're not going to do that. But
let's not do that. Yeah.
AJ and Rudo and Evan have done a great job on DNVR Avalanche podcast talking about what's been going on this season with the Avs, what happened yesterday and in this series against Vegas. So for more of an in-depth analysis, Avs fans and anyone who wants to listen, definitely go check out those podcasts. Today, AJ, I'm just going to ask you how you're feeling and then one positive takeaway from this season.
I'm tired, mostly. Yeah. Positive takeaway. I mean, they won the President's Trophy.
Yeah.
It's not nothing. I know it doesn't. It doesn't mean a whole lot if you don't do anything with it, but it's still a legitimate accomplishment and something that they can be proud of. So I'll go with that.
Henry, you were gonna say something?
It kind of feels like nothing. Like, if we're being honest, like waking up today, President's Trophy does not. Yep. It just doesn't change things for me. It's just a bad day.
Pretty much.
I mean, in time, we'll look back and we'll be like, that was a fun regular season. It was cool that they won it. That banner will hang in.
Yeah, they'll hang the banner next season.
That'll be cool. They'll get 2 banners because they won the division as well as the President's Trophy. So they'll add a couple of those up there. That'll be cool. Neat. Doesn't feel good today. No, but there's, when we look back on those banners, you in the past, you look at all of them up there and you're like, wow, they were so good back then. And there's only 2 cup trophies to go along with all those division titles. It's real hard to win. So this is a good reminder for everybody that the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy to win for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, leading up to the Stanley Cup playoffs, we talked about how just in hockey, you never know. There's so many different so many different things. I really can't speak today. So many different things that can take place that a goalie could get hot, a goalie could not be hot. There's so many things. It's just one of the hardest. Eric, why are you giggling over there?
Well, I'm giggling because Trey says his favorite rivalry is when Drew and I disagree on Nugget stuff. But I will say, as somebody who is a big Avs fan but has not been in the throes of it like you guys have, this to me was like a really impressive season by the Avalanche. I know that they lost last night, and obviously, we're in mourning as a fan base and just as a city. But winning the President's Trophy is not nothing at all. It's a very big deal. And it's sort of like the Broncos. My entire life, the Broncos were just good and they were always contending. And they didn't win every year, but they competed every year. To me, the Avs are just entering an era where we can expect them to put real pressure on the Stanley Cup playoffs every single year. I mean, they didn't get it done this year, but there's now a new crop of really exciting young players that are coming up. I mean, there's always something to look forward to, and the foundation of this team is incredible.
I think so too, but I think something that fans are extremely disappointed in at this moment, besides just losing, is the fact that Last year, they pushed it to a game 7 with
Sure.
a third string goalie. And obviously, it's a completely different team. The Stars are very different than Vegas, but still, they lost in game 6 of the second round. So it wasn't like there was like an
Oh, I get
improvement
it.
forward.
I get it. But there was an improvement forward in that they won the President's Trophy.
Yeah.
And the team itself absolutely improved. The things that happen in the Stanley Cup playoffs, like AJ said, it's the most difficult championship to win because there's just so much that happens that you have a puck that is oddly shaped that bounces in weird ways and things, like it jumps over a guy's stick when he's standing right in front of the net and he's not able to get a shot off. Like things just happen. But to me, it's like the Avs have arrived. I mean, they did last year too, but like we're just in an era where they're like very legitimate contenders every single year, which to me is incredible. I'm just not. I know we're in mourning, so it's difficult to sort of see the forest for the trees at the moment. But
I think the randomness of hockey and just how things can happen with the puck were best exemplified by games 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Because Ryan Graves gets a shot block that turns into a breakaway the other direction and turns into the game-winning goal. Alex Newhook blocks a shot from the point last night, and the puck bounces 3 times, lands directly on Will Carrier's stick, and turns into the 5-3 goal that was essentially the dagger in the third period.
Yeah.
And you're just, and like, that's not that of course doesn't excuse Colorado's poor play or any of the problems that they had in the series, but it's like these things happen.
Yeah.
They help decide series. The pucks bounce in just unpredictable ways, and part of it is overcoming some of that stuff. It's just you have to be really good. You have to be really lucky in terms of health, and then you just have to get the little breaks along the way. And that's part of the equation. It's okay to admit that. It's okay. It doesn't detract from any of the teams that win or advance. That's just the reality of hockey. That's just the reality of NHL in the postseason. That's why they have a best of 7 series.
Yeah.
So you can try and weed out as much of that as possible, but it's we saw it in games 5 and 6. They got just enough little things going their way that it didn't matter that Colorado outplayed them.
Yeah.
And that's just life. That happens.
The big conversation after the game yesterday were some of the comments made by Nathan MacKinnon. So AJ, I just quickly he's obviously frustrated. But I wanted to get your take real quick because people who might not be Avs fans, but are Nuggets fans, like everyone was talking about Nathan MacKinnon's press conference last night. So I just want to get your takes on how you felt about him being frustrated and saying I've been here for 9 years and still haven't won anything.
He's getting ready to go into his 9th season. He said,
Yeah.
I'm going into my 9th season and I haven't won shit.
Yeah.
And that's the quote that follows them into the off season now.
Yeah.
Because I honestly, because he used adult language, that's the part of the quote that's getting all of the run. But the first part of that quote is way more damning. It's way, way more damning because he says, yeah, there's always next year, but I feel like that's all we ever talk about. He's not here for this conversation about, oh, well, hey, next year the kids and you guys are still really good. And
yeah,
he wanted it now. And he even said, I thought we were the best team in the league this year, and for us not to get it it's a problem. And look, this is obviously a disappointment. Given that they did win the President's Trophy, which is not a participation trophy. That's an absurd thing to say. It's not a participation trophy. Otherwise, 30 other teams would get one.
Yeah.
It's a disappointment, but you look at the 3 teams that Colorado has lost to in the second round, and Vegas is by far the best of those 3 teams in those 3 years. That was their toughest opponent. And they didn't get it done, and that's the part that matters. But there's going to be a lot of people, and it's already started to happen, that want to clump all 3 of those second round losses in together like they're the same thing. The end result is the same, that they got to 6 games instead of 7. so what?
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, great. They get to 7 and then they lose. And how different is the story?
Yeah.
It's not. It's not different. It's a disappointment today.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that this is a letdown based on their expectations. And this is how it's going to be for the next several years for Avalanche hockey. If they don't win the Stanley Cup, it's going to be a disappointment.
Yeah.
You can feel good about what they did accomplish. You can acknowledge that 3 years in a row in the second round is something that probably 22 to 25 other franchises would take in a heartbeat if they knew that they could get to the second round. For some reason, for a fan base that sat through a 48-point season not that long ago, it almost feels like it's insulting that they lost in the second round again.
Yeah.
And it's certainly frustrating. It's certainly disappointing. But it was a great team that had a not quite good enough season. I don't know how to balance between it's a bummer,
Yeah.
it's a disappointment, but it wasn't nothing. It wasn't meaningless. If you walked out of this season feeling hollow and empty because they didn't win the Stanley Cup, I can't relate.
Yeah.
I can't relate.
Fan
you have to
bases
have
are
some
just
fun along the way, right?
100%. We've got Alex here saying the thing is, let's say the Avs win the cup next year and the following year they fall short. The fan base will be frustrated the following year saying they fell short and even would call it a choke, or some of the fan base. Like, it's disappointing today, and I think that the DNVR Avalanche guys on their podcast did a great job last night of feeling it and letting the emotions be out there, but there's so much to look forward to and there's so much to analyze. And so definitely check out, just because the season is over doesn't mean their podcast is over. They're going, they have a lot of awesome postseason content. So definitely check that out. They'll be going in depth on so many things, including the expansion draft, the NHL draft, and so many other things. So they're not going anywhere. Keep listening to them for more Avs.
AJ, I'm curious. Do you feel like there's one thing you can sort of point to that what led to the coming up short? Like, is there a thing that you would say the Avalanche need to address this?
One specific thing, honestly, no.
Yeah.
Because this was death by paper cut.
Yeah.
Games 3 and 4 were certainly problematic, but they also lost games 5 and 6 when they outplayed Vegas in both of those games. I can't genuinely point to one thing. It's easy to say puck management, but even with proper puck management, even with better puck management, Phil Grubauer's worst 3 games were games 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
Where he just didn't get the job done. Going into free agency, I'm curious what that ends up costing him, but it was a combination of several different things. Last year it was easy because it was like, look, special teams was a huge problem. The power play couldn't score. The penalty kill couldn't stop anybody. And then you look at this year, not a single word about the power play. The power play was one of the best power plays in recent NHL history in the postseason. It was insane.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is that the officials stopped calling penalties. The Avs had 2 power plays in games 5 and 6 combined.
Crazy.
They had 1 in each game. And one of those lasted 30 seconds because of a nonsense interference call. It's interesting to compare what went wrong last year versus what went wrong this year because they're very different.
Yeah.
They're very different failures.
It's nice to have a variety of failures to pull from.
Well, and this year, I think it's better because you're not feeling like, oh, dang, what would have happened if? What would have happened if Nazem Kadri was
I was going to say.
Sure. But what would have happened if Nathan MacKinnon had scored any points in games in which they were losing 3-2? What happens? What happens there if they're the guy that we all like to say is the best player in the world? If he shows up for the middle part of the series, he was great in game 1. He was great in game 6. All the other games in between also counted.
All right, let's end the Avs talk there. Let's focus on our topic of the day. I see a few people adding their opinions in the comments about the topic of the day. But before we get to that, DraftKings Sportsbook is the #1 sportsbook in America. They are so great. I love using them, even though this last week has been red dot city for me as I have been betting on Denver sports and losing. So hopefully we change things around. Right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is offering a sign-up bonus. $1. You can turn $1 into $100 in free credits if you bet on any basketball team of your choice to win their next game. And if they do, you claim $100 in free credits. DraftKings is always doing such awesome promotions like these. You're always getting profit boosts. They have certain days where they give random little gifts to your email to get you to bet. My birthday was last week. I got a free birthday bet it on the Avs. Not fun. But Nuggets are going to turn it around tonight. I can feel it. We all need it.
Let's go.
So don't forget to use that promo code DNVR for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Wagers paid out in site credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Remember, you can turn $1 into $100 in free credits if you bet on a basketball team of your choice to win their next game. Literally, not point, the over, no, just win. Use that promo code DNVR. And, of course, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. All right. The topic of the day is best and worst rivalries in Denver sports history. Best meaning some of the most fun, intense rivalries and moments that we've had in Denver sports history. Worst meaning some of the rivalries that are kind of trying to be forced onto the teams but aren't actual rivalries just yet. Henry is going to represent college as well as Broncos over here, but we're going to talk about a lot of different rivalries. Eric, let's start with you. Let's start with the Nuggets.
Okay, let's start with the Nuggets, shall we?
Jokic won MVP, so at least there's something to be happy about in the Nuggets world.
Yeah, but that's kind of a participation trophy, if you ask me. I'm just kidding.
All
It's
right,
incredible. It's unbelievable. He won the MVP.
If they don't win the championship, what does it matter?
Yeah, what is it? Just throw the season away. Just crumple it up in a ball and forget it
Stop
ever happened.
No, I'm over Negative Friday. We are switching the vibes around. Best rivalry in Nuggets history.
So the best rivalry in Nuggets history, you could look at this a couple different ways. I mean, the rivalry that they have never been able to overcome but constantly is with the Lakers. The problem is the Lakers don't consider the Nuggets a rival. So I'm not going to say that. Like, we're going to move past that. We're going to look at like more recent trends and like interdivision stuff with the Portland Trailblazers, with the Utah Jazz, these teams that were built much the same way that the Nuggets have been built, where they're not destination cities, which is unfortunately the biggest thing there is in the NBA. So they've had to actually craft their teams by drafting well and then acquiring players in the right way. Utah right now, I mean, obviously rivalries are always built in the playoffs, and these are the teams that we've had like the biggest battles with in the most recent years. Thankfully, we were able to overcome evil and vanquish the terrible Portland Trailblazers after they beat us 2 years ago. So I hope that they're all sucking on lemons and thinking about us as their rivals. But right now, it's the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz are currently who the Nuggets should be. The Utah Jazz were beaten by the Nuggets last year in the bubble. Very big deal. In the first round, Donovan Mitchell, Jamal Murray going head-to-head, making each just trading historic performances just left and right haymakers. We beat the Jazz because, sometimes justice is actually served in sports. But now the Jazz came out, they just fired out of a cannon. They're the number 1 seed. They're just killing everybody. They're just knocking down 3-pointers like it's no joke. And this is what the Nuggets should be. This is the most frustrating thing, is that the Nuggets with Jamal Murray should be making the same type of noise as the Jazz are currently. But, Nug life is something that is eternal and may prove to be.
I was going to say, is that the best rivalry? Nug life.
Well, I will say, so the real rivalry is Portland and Utah. The fake rivalry is the Nuggets versus the national media. Like, for some reason, even when the Nuggets players or the Nuggets team accomplish something that is just should be unimpeachable, like, I don't know, winning the MVP, like getting 91 out of 100 something votes, like just an absolute landslide, like the conversation has not stopped. Like, all of the idiots that get paid to just rile up the internet are just riling, like Skip Bayless and Nick Wright. Like, they're using every misstep made by Nikola Jokic to talk about what a terrible decision it was. Even though, again, it was not close. It wasn't like Nick Wright used all season to talk about, or at least all end of the season, saying that Chris Paul should have been the MVP. He got 2 votes. 2 votes. It's frustrating. And now Nikola Jokic finds himself in a situation where he doesn't have a second running mate. We saw what happened to LeBron James when he lost Anthony Davis. They got swept right out of the first round. No problem. When you don't have your second banana, it's very difficult, because then the other team can just key in on Nikola Jokic. You'll look at like stills of the first 2 games in this series, and they'll be like all 5 Suns players will just be like connected to Nikola Jokic, while a bunch of guys that can't shoot are all hanging around unguarded around the perimeter. So that's frustrating. So
Jokic needs his banana.
Yeah, Jokic needs his banana pants.
Like Avs fans want AJ to wear banana pants.
Yes,
okay, just want to make sure we got it right here.
Yes. So for whatever reason, the Nuggets are just forever relegated to background status to much of the national media, where in their minds the Nuggets are here to just play the backdrop to the heroic stories of the Lakers or the Nets or all of these teams that are, that should win because that's the better storyline in their eyes. It's terrible. It's a terrible place to be. I hate that I got involved in the Nuggets. It makes me crazy. Like, all I do is go online, and it should be nice. Like, when your favorite player and the guy that I've dubbed the top human wins the award that he deserves. And then you feel like no pleasure, because then you just are immediately back in the foxhole, just fighting everybody all the time. It's terrible. So national media, screw you. And to our rivals, Portland, I'm glad you lost. And Utah, I hope you lose.
I got to say, the Portland Trailblazer Nuggets rivalry with 3 years ago, or was it 3 years ago? Time really feels weird.
It was 2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago, with like the sassy comments
and
the Trailblazers, just those players just in the media every day, just talking trash. Like, when you would go to Pepsi Center at the time, there'd be signs saying like, "Yeah, let's be sassy."
Yeah,
and it was just that rivalry.
Sassy dudes over there.
I felt the Nuggets fan base be like, and like, have a nice summer. All those comments, like this year, it was like, oh yeah, we're ready to say that. Oh, Eric, your audio was really weird there.
Oh, it is?
I think you were hitting the little mute and then unmute button.
Well, I'm riled up. I can't be held accountable for my actions.
I understand.
We're talking about the Trailblazers and Enes Kanter and Seth Curry and like all of these bozos that we thankfully and mercifully beat. It's just, rivalries, just bring it out. That's the whole point of a rivalry. Is it's supposed to tap into something deep and primal in you. And
so I like the Trailblazers as the like current rival of the Nuggets. What about you guys? Henry, how do you feel? What do you think?
Yeah, I really hate the Jazz. I really hate the Blazers. Yep. And as a Nuggets fan, like, who I hate should be who the rivals are. That's my logic here. Yep. And so when I look at those two, it's like, yeah, I want to see them lose. I mean, on top of that, like, both the LA teams, but that's not really a rivalry just because there isn't enough that's actually happened. So yeah, I think it's the Jazz and the Blazers. With the Jazz more likely going forward just because of the way that everything stacks up. That's a good team going forward, whereas the Blazers are not going to exist the way that they were
very different team.
very soon.
We vanquished them. We vanquished our rival.
ended
That's something to revel in.
All right, Drew, what do you think? Trailblazer Jazz, you like that?
Yeah, no, for that logic, it's got to be the Jazz because it's like, yeah, the Trailblazers have been vanquished. They are no more.
Right.
Done.
That's right. Off you go into the land of the rebuild.
Yeah.
AJ?
Sounds good.
Sounds good? All right. Thank you.
A+.
All right. Look, we'll get to all best and then we can see maybe worst later. All right, Drew. We got people in the comments saying Rockies, Padres, or Diamondbacks are underrated rivalries. What do you think is the Rockies' biggest and best rival?
Yeah, so it's in baseball, everyone in your division is your rival because you play them 19 MFing times a year. You get sick of seeing those dudes. And then it's likely that if you get to the postseason, there they are again. I'll go. I've actually always thought it was the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks and the Rockies came into existence right around the same time. They tend to be good around the same times as each other. So the Padres is a really interesting one. They're almost rivalries. They're almost rivals in how bad they are because the Padres are, isn't it great? The Padres are one of the few teams in Major League Baseball who just have an overall worse winning percentage than the Rockies.
But they still won that goddamn World Series.
But the Padres have just been mostly pretty bad, and the Rockies have been mostly pretty bad. But the reason why, other than in 2007 when they played each other in Game 163, those two teams have never really been good at the same time. Whereas it seems like every time the Rockies do manage to find their way into the postseason picture. In 2007, they did go on and play the Diamondbacks there. Obviously played them in 2017 in the wild card game that they ended up losing. While they didn't play them in the postseason in 2018, the Diamondbacks were still good right down the stretch, and the Rockies had some big games against them. That's basically how they got there. So I think it's the Diamondbacks with the expansion, and they share spring training facilities, and they tend to be good and also bad around the same times. Like in the NBA, the team you hate the most is still the Dodgers. It's still very clearly and obviously LA, but that's not.
That is true. In the NBA, we also hate the Dodgers.
Yeah, right. And also the Dodgers. Beat LA is a chant that works in multiple sports.
Every sport.
Though it tends not to actually work. Because, that's not a rivalry. The Dodgers are much better. But, I saw a lot of funny ones, people in the comments and people on Twitter. Rockies versus Dick Monfort. Rockies versus winning. Rockies versus their own fans right now is an interesting one.
Yeah,
I like how Drew goes, it's real funny. Ha. As he's reading them. So funny.
They say the key to comedy is making the same joke over and over again for 15 years. But sorry to anyone who's making it for the first time. So like all that stuff. The Rockies versus their own bullpen. Yeah.
That's
versus their environment. The Rockies versus
their good players.
Stars. Yeah. Well, they typically have one or two stars. The problem is that all those players that you need to have who aren't stars who make your team good, because in baseball you need 25 players for your team to be good. And like they've almost always had like, Trevor Story, and although right now those guys aren't playing like stars, but Tulo and Cargo are right this very moment might be as starless as they've been because Story's not playing like one. But the Coors outfield, that's another one. Yeah.
Well, but the thing is like I thought the way we were deciding whether or not it was a rival is if you hate whoever it is. Like I hate their bullpen. I don't hate home runs. I don't hate the altitude. I certainly don't hate.
But you hate losing, right?
I don't hate. I don't hate winning. It can't be our rival can't be winning because I like winning.
Right, you like to win, and so they need to fix their ballpark. Like, I get it. I get that we all like home runs, but if you how many home runs would you give up to, win?
A lot.
Three home runs.
All of them.
All of them. Just get rid of them. as long as
Neil
they're
win.
free.
The correct answer. You'd rather hit 0 home runs and win the World Series than set the home run record and go out in the first round. The Rockies,
All right, Eric, calm down.
By on this, we've got a great ballpark and the games here are wild and crazy, aren't they? Look at all the runs. But stop it. Stop. Fix the damn ballpark. It's ridiculous. You can't build sustainable success. Everything that AJ talked about, the chaos conversation earlier about everything that goes on, the more chaos you have in your sports, the harder it is to build any kind of sustainable success.
So how are we fixing our ballpark, Drew?
Okay, you're not going to like this.
Don't make him go into a rant.
You
Make it smaller?
You have to make it smaller. If you've got to build high walls because you're worried about extra home runs, okay. Outfielders cannot patrol 2 football fields worth of grass out there. Guys should not be hitting doubles on broken bat bloopers to shallow left field. It's too much. Nobody can pitch in that environment. It's too much chaos, too much randomness. You can lose 5-6 games in a row on bloopers and nonsense and garbage. So they've got to make even if it's more offensively friendly, they've got to make it more controlled.
You don't think they should maybe like burrow into the earth, like 5,000 feet down, and then have the ballpark start there?
Right. Take the elevator down to the game. So for it.
Okay.
I want high, like walls.
Okay, let's
glass walls, guys jumping up against the wall in the outfield.
let's wrap it up.
I love when Allie's just had enough. She's like, what is
I feel like that was our best stuff right there.
that was pretty
We're
good
just getting
stuff,
into
I
the
thought.
good stuff.
I thought that was good
Look
stuff.
at AJ's face. I don't think that was the best stuff.
Hold on.
AJ's like,
Why
what
did
did
AJ
you
showed up with that face. That's just his face the whole time. That has almost nothing to do with us.
Very little.
We've got Michael here saying build a purple monster, but all the way around the outfield.
Make it purple.
Yo, I'm so into this.
Mm-hmm.
They need a total redesign because
All right, so you Diamondbacks. That's who you said.
Yeah.
Going back to the first question.
Yeah, I'll take the Arizona Diamondbacks. Put me down for that.
All right. How does everyone feel about it? We're not going to go each person. Any arguments? Any debates?
Does anyone have anything to say? If not, go.
Why even ask the question if you don't want us to answer, Allie? Why do you hate us so much?
I do want you to answer, but I don't want it to turn into a 21-minute rant about a purple monster in the outfield 500 feet underneath the earth.
I think it was
I said
5,000.
5,000. I said 5,000.
5,000.
My apologies.
He's not even listening to us.
5,000. Yeah, I'm just catching little glimpses of what you're saying. Okay, so Diamondbacks. Moving on. Henry with the Broncos. Who do you think is the Broncos' best rival?
I mean, it's the Raiders. It's not even a conversation. It's been the Raiders for decades. Like, yeah, there was the little blip with the Patriots when you had Peyton. Sure. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, the answer is the Raiders, and I don't even think there's much of a conversation.
No.
Oh, we have a comment here saying the best rivalry is Allie versus everyone else on TDS.
I don't know why she turns it into a rivalry. We all just want to be friends.
It's true.
I'm trying to keep the show going.
Yes, it's Allie's fault.
Yeah, I don't know why he always does
Definitely.
this.
It's Allie's doing.
I actually don't want to be friends at all. I'm the agent. I'm just here to be an agent of chaos.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
well-
we already heard people love the Eric Drew rivalry.
Yeah, we
When
haven't
it
had
comes to
anything to
Nuggets.
fight about yet. So,
I'll bring it up.
No.
what was that one guy's name?
Okay. All right, Raiders. Why do you say it's the Raiders? Go a little more in detail.
I mean, because it is. Because we hate the Raiders. Because we've always hated the Raiders. It's been 50 years of this. I think that, sure, there's a little bit of a lull because the Raiders are bad and the Broncos have been pretty bad too. But there's just a difference between Raider games and any other game. Like, you hate the Raiders. That's what you do.
My
does
father
everyone know?
hated the Raiders. His father hated the Raiders.
Yeah,
They did.
so-
They did, both of them.
So as a youngster, my family had Bronco season tickets, and I got to go to one Broncos Raiders Monday Night Football game as a kid. And the only reason it was one is because on the bus ride home, a Broncos fan lit a Raiders fan on fire, and then it turned into a full-blown melee on the bus. So,
what?
I didn't get to go to any more Raiders.
So the
Broncos
family
games
was like,
until I was
no more games.
I feel like I need more information, but I also don't want it. Like I don't want it.
I was too young. I don't remember it. I just remember being told that's when because when I got older, I was like, why don't I ever get to go to these games? And they were like, well, there was an incident where they set this guy on fire on the bus.
They're like, AJ, we have the most horrifying yet confusing answer for you.
Well, and it was like, did you guys see the Instagram video of the Avs fans at T-Mobile last night?
Yeah.
Yes.
And the guy that like took their flag, and then when he tried to get it back, they started a huge fight with them, and it was a whole thing. It was kind of like the reverse of that, but on a bus, and they got lit on fire.
Yo, you know what's crazy is that those are now Raiders fans. Like that.
Oh yeah.
Like Vegas fans, like that. Watching that, it was like, oh, this is like the kind of garbage you see at like low rent, like stadium. Like this is what you would see at the Black Hole. Like, and now those people who have never had professional sports like don't know how to act, and now they're Raiders fans. So you're right, Henry.
I think it's a little bit of just the world was shut down, so fans in general don't know how to act. Because
dude, have you ever been to Las Vegas?
The amount of fights, the amount of random punching other fans in the face at baseball games, like yelling. There's so much intensity right now.
A lot at baseball games, man.
It's wild right now.
Like a confusing amount, but all the same, I
just people trying to stay awake during the game.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know, dude. I'd say keep an eye on Las Vegas as a fan base. I feel like we're going to be.
I totally agree.
This Raiders thing.
This is
yeah.
We haven't gotten to my shit yet, but this is a low like the entire NHL hates Vegas.
Yeah,
like. No. At first, it was a lot of jealousy because they went to the Stanley Cup in their first year.
Yeah.
But a lot of it has become people go to Vegas and they want it. Like Vegas is supposed to be like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a great weekend. I'm going to go see my team play. People hate those fans. Like hate them. And now they're Raiders fans.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, before we dive into NHL, I do want to go a little more into football because, like, as most people listen to this podcast know, I grew up in Philadelphia. So, like, sure, the Cowboys are like the Raiders of the Broncos, but I also like, there's just so many teams that I'm like, oh God, like I hate. I honestly like growing up with around Giants fans and and the Washington football team fans. I like, oh God, they piss me off more than Cowboy fans. So I wonder, like, do the Broncos also have something like that where like the Chiefs? We have a bunch of people in the comments. Like the Raiders are like that team, but like the Chiefs and Chiefs fans, you're like, ugh. Yeah,
of course.
Oh yeah.
Pre Patrick Mahomes, when the Broncos stood chances at winning those games, it was like fuck those guys. And now with Mahomes, you're just like, all right, well, this is go well.
This sucks.
I feel like that's how it is for me with like all sports, where it's like they're outside of the Broncos. I kind of hate the other 31 teams in the NBA.
100%.
I hate the other 29 teams in hockey. Hate them all. Like I don't pay as much attention. Baseball, honestly, I might hate the Rockies at this point more than any of the others. Just after what they've done to me. But
I'm a Rockies fan.
30-30 in the MLB, not the MLB.
Not the MLB.
No. I'm not a rookie. I know what I'm talking about.
So everyone, obviously, this is just different. We have some people in the comments saying Chiefs are cool. Other people saying, nope, I hate the Chiefs more than the Raiders. Chargers and Raiders are more intense.
No.
I mean, they're kind of fun.
Chiefs are cool, honestly. Chargers and Raiders are more intense rivalries.
Yeah, the Chiefs are cool. They're not as bad as Raiders. It doesn't make them cool.
The Chargers?
Okay.
Has
Tweet
anybody,
it.
has
Just
anybody
Denver
ever
doesn't
felt
like
like
LA.
they were a rival?
No.
Just Denver
The San
doesn't like
Diego
LA.
fans in general. I feel like the Chargers, the Padres fans, like again, that team maybe not, but the fans. I feel like Rockies fans fight with Padres fans. That was the punch in the face was these Padres. Diamondbacks fans, no problem with them. They're great people for as far as I know. But Chargers and Padres fans are freaking weird.
So
See,
the Chargers
even Drew's mom here saying that she likes the Chiefs.
Come get your mom.
Kansas City. That doesn't
What?
count. Don't bring her into this. She went to KU. She
Okay, that's right.
We didn't bring her into this. She brought it. She commented.
Don't bring her into this.
Her vote does not count.
Leave my mom out of this.
That's true. Someone said Chargers don't have many fans for other teams not to like.
Right, that's what's so weird about them. There's
That's
not
true.
very many of them, but they still act entitled. It's the same thing with the Padres fans. There's like 12 of them. Why are they all assholes? Like, surely one or two. You live in San Diego.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, aren't Southern California people like that though? Not to stereotype or anything, but isn't that like as somebody who lives in Denver, I'm supposed to feel that way, but not as a stereotype. Just that like they are
Just
bad.
as a point of fact.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was like what you're supposed to think if you live here.
Yeah, it's true.
So
Well, they all live here now, so you're talking about your neighbors, homie.
Oh,
boy.
man, we're getting spicy. I like this topic. This is not a Monday ass topic. This is a full Friday ass topic.
Okay. Tyler wanted to clarify.
Stereotype,
He
but don't all
said
those
Chiefs
people-
fans can be pretty chill. Chargers and Raiders fans are way worse, in his opinion. This is definitely based off of who you deal with. Like I grew up in Philadelphia and then moved to DC when I was in high school, and DC fans were I hated them. So of course my like bias towards that team and that fan base is a lot more angry compared to the Cowboys, which I didn't really have to deal with as much, especially because when I was watching it, the Cowboys weren't that good. So I always felt kind of good to beat them. But I feel like it's just different for everyone. Some people are saying like in baseball and in football, you hate everyone in your division.
Yeah, well, you play them so much, and they're like the central part of your schedule.
Yeah.
Like you can't go to the postseason, you can't win a division, you can't do any of those things without being good within your own division.
Yeah.
And you can kind of get away with it a little bit in the NHL, where like you can like the
Not
Avs
this
a couple years ago, like obviously not this year, but like last season, the Avs like destroyed the Eastern Conference, and it helped prop them up against some of their own mediocrity in division. But you can't get away with that in like the NFL. It's 6 of your games, of your 17 games. Like you have to be competitive within your division. And as Drew mentioned, in baseball, you see each of those teams 19 times.
There was a season a couple of years ago. I think the Astros went like 17-2 against the Rangers. Like they basically built their entire division lead on decimating the crap out of the Texas Rangers. Just embarrassing those guys. Fair enough.
Okay, before we keep going, after last night, I didn't sleep very well. AJ didn't sleep well. Drew lives off of Strava Craft Coffee. That's what I had to live off of today because it was a rough night. There was a lot of emotions, but Strava Craft Coffee is there to have your back when you got to wake up, but you don't want those coffee jitters that other coffees can give you. Plus, they deliver straight to your door, so you never have to worry about running out of coffee. You can sign up for their subscription service and save 20% off every time you order coffee, and they'll come every 2, 4, 6, or 8 weeks, whenever you prefer. It's one of the best services, and they are CBD coffee if you didn't know that. And right now you can get 25% off your first purchase when you use the code DNVR. They haven't been feeling as much of the love, even though we've been telling you guys, please go show them some love. They are one of our longest supporters. So please go get some coffee. It's summer. You need to be awake.
Yeah.
Like the Nuggets still have some playoff games that are late as hell. Go get some coffee. Go get some Strava Craft coffee and use that promo code DNVR. Now I have one more. My favorite, Chevalier Mortgage.
Ooh.
I will say it right today, and maybe that will
go.
trigger the Nuggets to win. Who knows? I don't know anymore. trying to buy a house right now is so freaking stressful. I was trying to do it for a while, decided not to do it. But if you're still going through this, hit up Chevalier Mortgage. Michael and Virginia, they are so great at what they do. They're going to make your life so much easier. And you can visit them at dnvrmortgage.com and enter to win a free shirt or hat of your choice when you do. Most importantly, set up that free consultation to discuss all of your options. You can refinance your home, try and buy a home. They're going to help you out. So check them out. You can call Virginia directly at 303-257-6578, or you can visit them at www.dnvrmortgage.com, like I told you. And their NMLS number, Michael Chevalier, NMLS 1931006, Virginia Chevalier, NMLS 1910631. Check them out today. They're really great. Again, supporting our sponsors, help support us. And I already told you guys, Avs guys aren't going anywhere. Nuggets guys are still riding strong, even going 2 losses in a row. We've got post-game shows after every game. Rockies as well, series recaps. They go live. And we've just got all of this awesome written content. We've got the DNVR Lounge, the Discord that you become a member of. And this summer, if you want a 22-ounce beer for the price of a 16-ounce beer, you get that at the DNVR being a member. We're going to have a lot of really fun events this summer, with just having Rockies on at a certain point in July. So subscribe to DNVR so you can get all of the alerts for that. It's going to be a blast.
Olympics.
And we just have a lot of Olympics. All-Star Weekend. We're going to have some fun stuff. It's going to be a blast.
Let's freaking go.
And we still have all of our awesome coverage on top of it. Henry's been rewatching all of the Buffs games. He's got a lot of awesome Buffs content coming your way, doing podcasts and all. So,
buddy, are you okay?
84 days until kickoff.
Clearly not.
84 days. 84 days. At least there's things happening. Dude, the Buffs starting quarterback goes to Oregon State.
Yeah.
Now Oregon State comes to CU in November, and I tweeted that, and he just liked that tweet a couple minutes ago. That's the rivalry.
Okay.
Oregon
Anyway.
I'm
State
fired
is
up.
the rivalry.
Literally something happened in Buffs world, and I am happy.
Yes, but you can't come in here and say Oregon State is the rivalry for
Buffs
the Buffs.
v. Beavs.
They've
dude.
got
Let's
the quarterback. They got the quarterback now. That's gotta be.
Still, that doesn't make them the rival.
But then who is in the Pac-12?
In the Pac-12, I don't know.
There
Nebraska's
isn't
obviously
one.
an old-time rival.
And we'll
that's
see him
been
again in 5 years.
Reignited the last 2 years, but I guess like
No, this is the
Oregon?
rival now.
Oregon?
Dude, Oregon, if you were to ask Oregon who its rivals are, Colorado might not be in the top half of the rest of the Pac-12.
But I'm not asking Oregon. I'm asking the Buffs.
I mean, yeah, I would say no.
Utah. So
They play each other the last week of the season now. I feel like when you're talking like the headlines like worst rivalries as well, I feel like that's pointing specifically to CU in the Pac-12. Like ever since they left the whatever, I think was it still the Big 12 at the time? I think it was. And then they had like Oklahoma and Nebraska and Texas, all these guys that they'd always been playing. And now it's like, yeah, Stanford, UCLA. Like there are no rivals in the Pac-12 for CU.
Well, I think that Utah is those are big games. Oregon's big game, and USC. I feel like if those are the three that people, not Stanford, not UCLA. Yeah. Like when you're thinking of like, oh, those are going to be good games, or like, oh, what are the Buffs going to do? Like that's who I think. Oregon, USC. Yeah. I mean, and they've never been able to beat USC No, they've never been able to beat them. Yeah,
they're 0-14 all time.
So,
which would be my answer if you say that's a rivalry. but yeah, like there just aren't rivalries in the Pac-12 for the Buffs. Like there's important games, but it sucks. It really sucks right now.
Oh, so people are saying I'm interested in your takes, everyone. So people are saying CU versus CSU is the rivalry. I don't think that's the rivalry.
Yeah, I mean it's after Nebraska. It has to be number 2.
These are such neophytes. You just only know the CU in the very small amount of time since you decided to go there. You never thought about CU when you grew up. Henry, Allie.
It is true.
Henry didn't even go to CU. Allie only started thinking about CU when she went there. When I grew up, CSU actually meant something. The CSU used to beat CU all the time. They're just in a bad spot.
Okay.
Like,
Sorry, that
when I went to school, they beat them
so
almost every year. Like,
that's
things are
happened
cyclical.
once
Obviously,
in the last like 5
No,
years.
I mean,
Sorry.
come on, give me a break. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's the submit, like the way that CU fans summarily dismiss CSU, and then they're like, "Oh, who's our rival? Oh, no one cares about us in the Pac-12 at all. Like, we are complete afterthought." And not only that, like, they're just like clamoring for people to care, but no one does. CSU cares, but they're too good for CSU because they need to go and get beat in California. That's impressive. It's lame. Dude, CSU is meaningful. It should be meaningful. It's so obnoxious to me that CU thinks that they are so far above CSU. CSU is just a bad spot.
Okay, well, CSU
Yeah.
needs to win some games to
So
make
does
it feel more
CU.
like a rival.
So
No,
You
against
did-
CSU.
You
CU
did
versus
say USC
CSU.
was a rivalry, though.
No, I said those are in games that I like look at on the schedule that I'm like, okay, those are like big games that people get up for.
But
Yeah.
it's
Like I don't think of that
I mean-
when you think of UCLA and Stanford as
But, like,
much as
that-
those other teams.
That is the thing with CU right now is like your number one rival's Nebraska, and you just played them twice in the last 3 years after not playing them for over a decade, and now you're going to play them again in 5 years. Your number two rivalry is CSU, and that just got kind of taken off the schedule to like in every other year it's like 2 of 4 or whatever, which again I think was the right call, but there's just not many rivals right
now. Look at you walking in the wasteland. No
All right,
rivals
Eric.
to speak
All
of.
right,
I
Eric.
mean,
I know that we're
Let's
supposed to be
move
The rivalry
on
wasteland,
to-
yes.
Nope, muted you. Let's move on to the Avs because
I
that's
agree
what
with
people
Eric.
want to hear about. Not you already started it off, Henry. I was complimenting Henry about his work and doing that, and then somehow it got turned into this. Whatever. Okay, AJ,
Terrible.
what is the Avs' best rivalry?
I mean, come on.
Answer the question.
It's the Red Wings.
Okay.
It's the Red Wings with the asterisk that since about the mid 2000s it hasn't existed. But Avs Red Wings starting in 96 and going to about 2002-ish was a top 5 rivalry in sports history. And that's not an exaggeration. It was two juggernauts of their sports just trading body blows.
Yeah.
Trading championships. I mean, you look at they were constantly in each other's way. Western Conference Finals, second round, they were just constantly in each other's way. And the hatred, I mean, when you have beat writers fighting in the press box, like your rivalry has really taken over.
Oh yeah.
It was an all-time great rivalry back in the day. An all-time great rivalry.
There should be more like movies or more like a 30 for 30 about it all.
There should be. There was a it was about the Russian Five, but it was a documentary about the Russian Five. They got really heavily into the rivalry into 96 and 97 especially, and it was a great watch, and it made me sympathetic towards all of them, and that just made me feel so dirty. So don't go watch it, despite it being a great documentary.
Is it terrible when like actual real life outside human emotion creeps into your sports feelings? You're like, wait, like, I don't want to feel empathetic towards these people. That
Yeah,
have fake
because
sports
like
hate.
they're talking about all the horrible things some of these Russian players had to endure to get out, and like they end up in Detroit, and they're we live in a world now where Russians in the NHL is extremely common. It's just a thing. And back then that wasn't the case. And they were all unbelievably talented too. It wasn't like, hey, here's a bunch of third and fourth liners from Russia. Like, you're talking star players. And they made a big difference in that rivalry. And it's a great documentary, but you will definitely feel sympathy towards the enemy. That's an all-time great rivalry.
doing that.
And
Yeah.
it's just
I'm all
too
for
good.
it.
Today, I would say, I know we haven't really gotten into like worst rivalries, but Colorado and Minnesota fans absolutely hate each other, but it's a terrible rivalry because these two teams don't play each other in meaningful situations. They had one playoff series 7 years ago that people are still acting like was a first round series. It went 7 games. It was highly contentious, but it was 7 years ago. It was just the one, like, they've seen each other 3 times in Minnesota's history.
God.
It's just not that big of a deal. A real rivalry, a true rivalry has to be born of postseason hatred.
Yes.
It has to be teams playing meaningful games. Look, Colorado and Vegas has a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Vegas, I mentioned this on last night's show, but Vegas has already spent all their 30-year-old money. They're committed to this team. They're going to be on a heavy decline in probably 2 or 3 years here. But during those couple of years, right now, these are set up as the 2 best teams that should be seeing each other at the end of the road. That has a chance to be good. It could get to the level of like what Avs Stars did in the late 90s, where they ran into each other in consecutive conference finals. But right now, the Avs don't really have a true like good rival. You know, the Avs and Blues can't stand each other, but they've had one postseason series in 20 years, and St. Louis forgot to show up. So it's just not really particularly meaningful. They had the game 82 where winner of that game got to go to the postseason. All right, great. Colorado won that, lost in the first round. Like, they need more meaningful games against consistent opponents.
Yeah.
Until then, they're not going to have another true like rival. But Minnesota's as close as it gets today.
Especially just fans, like fans truly being like, ugh, towards each other.
Oh, yeah. That's what, like, the fans from both teams totally hate each other.
Oh, my God.
But it's just like, okay, this is like a meaningless slap fight. Yeah, it's like the Battle of Alberta. Like, Calgary and Edmonton fans cannot stand each other's existence. So what?
But aren't they like kind of polite about it at the same time in Canada?
No. you would think so because Canadians, but no.
No.
They are not polite about anything about.
Yeah, like in order for there to be like a real rival, there has to be like blood spilled at a certain point. Like, and if not like literal blood, it has to be like symbolic blood. There has to be like some like real trespass against your team by the other fan base, or some player doing some like super dirty thing to where it like gets beyond you just wanting to beat them. Like, you want their existence to be called into question. Like, you want them to feel shame. You want them to be reduced to nothing. Like, and that all, it's just like all of those like bad, revengeful, like bloodlusty feelings that come up in a rivalry. Like, until you've really had absolutely everything on the line and it go badly in a way that is like not just between the lines, like that is how a rivalry is built. Like the Red Wings Colorado Avalanche, I mean, like that Claude Lemieux, I mean, like that was, as the book is titled, that is a blood feud. Like,
yeah.
100%.
And that's how that stuff happens. I mean, the Portland Denver stuff, like Portland as a city took it upon themselves to try to ascend to a higher moral ground against Denver, and essentially accused Denver of being racist and like unethical and like all of these weird, crazy things that came out from the series where you're like, all right, we're not talking about basketball anymore. Like, you guys suck. Like, that is how a rivalry is like really born.
Okay, so let's move on real quick to what is being kind of forced into a rivalry that actually isn't. AJ, I know you kind of talked about that. We have some people in the comments saying that Arizona Avs is like being kind of forced into a rivalry that really isn't there. Do you agree with that?
No.
Okay, who do you think of the division? Is it the Blues?
I mean, Minnesota. Like, that's they're in division. Like, it's really just the Wild. the Blues could be, especially with the added Ryan O'Reilly to the mix and the feelings that a lot of the fan base still has towards him. But right now, there's really just not They're searching right now. They're searching for someone to hate.
Aren't we all?
What an expression.
For someone to hate.
Drew, who do you think is one that is kind of being forced? I saw a lot of people saying Cardinals, Rockies. Is that it's just because of Nolan? Like that's being forced that way?
Probably the one that's being forced right now a little bit. It makes a certain amount of sense. There's also like Rockies fans, again, like really can't stand the Cardinal way and the Cardinal fans calling themselves the best fans in baseball, like with some regularity. That's annoying. So now that they've got your dude, and it turns out that he was like sending them videos and like that was the one place he really wanted to go and he always would have preferred to have been there. And I think that, and then his curtain call comments, I think riled up both fan bases in a way that was really weird. Obviously, it pissed off Rockies fans who were like, what, dude, why are you bringing us into this? We did stuff for you. We totally gave you curtain calls. But then a lot of Cardinals fans like got up, like insulted on his behalf and like took this as another opportunity to talk about how much better they are than Rockies fans. Be like, oh, you wouldn't give him a curtain call? You didn't even know what you had.
They're like, listen to us. We're an unlivable Midwestern hellhole. We know what's up.
Just the worst. But yeah, as far as like an on-field thing is like, you know, or John Gray and Ryan McMahon getting all riled up because, oh man, here come the St. Louis Cardinals. Like, no.
Yeah.
Like, no. But for the fans, like, I get that one. It makes a little bit of sense, but it's also being forced a little bit because a lot of it's built around stuff that isn't even true. Like Rockies fans did give Nolan Arenado a curtain call. That was just a dumb thing for him to say.
Cardinals fans, the only people that Cardinals fans give more curtains called to than their players are themselves.
It's amazing. I mean, we had this whole debate about the definition of curtain calls, the whole thing. I was like, how could it be anyway? And then the Rockies rolled in there, and like one of their pitchers happened to hit a home run. Like he clipped the ball just inside. And it was the first home run of his career. They're like, curtain call, standing ovation. Bring this guy back out on the field. Tip your cap. I'm like, he hit a home run in the fourth inning that made it a 3-1 baseball game. What in the world is happening here?
I'm disgusted.
Okay.
They're the number one rivalry. Those people.
Let's move on to Broncos real quick. We kind of talked about, like, is there one that's like kind of being forced there? Henry,
I don't
do you
think
think?
so.
You guys think?
I don't think so. I think they just have enough real rivals that there's no need to force more.
And we kind of touched on it, just like division based, like so.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you have the Patriots and like the Steelers. I think like there's still some Cowboys stuff from back in the day, way back in the day. But yeah, that's
The thing about the Broncos is that they are a team that people look up to. They want to beat the Broncos. It's like, so we have real rivalries because people like want to beat the Broncos because that's like a feather in their cap. It's like with some of these other teams, it's like, hey, aren't you mad we beat you? And they're like, no. Like, oh, all right.
And I think with the Patriots, like the Patriots were everyone's like rival. Like everyone wanted to beat the Patriots at one point. Like whoever was, I had so many Broncos fans be like, oh, the Eagles are playing the Patriots. I'm an Eagles fan today. Like the Patriots were just like that team for like the whole NFL. But
the Broncos were the ones that cracked through and kind of made that a rivalry.
Oh,
hell yeah.
Like them and the Giants are the two that actually turned that into a rivalry.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, Eric, quickly with the Nuggets, who is like the worst rivalry that's being. We got other shows today, guys. If I could go all day and night long, I would. But we got other shows I gotta go produce.
I mean, do you want me on the show? I don't understand. I said the national media. That's our number one fake rivalry.
Okay, but I wasn't saying. Okay, all right, national media. Okay.
Or secondarily, Philadelphia now. Philadelphia has been foisted on the Nuggets because it's Embiid versus Jokic, and the city of Philadelphia has been. And I'm sorry, plug your ears here, Allie. I apologize. I'm going to go in to see you and Philadelphia on one podcast.
Please don't go on a long rant. We gotta go. Dude, please.
Philadelphia, they have certain people that have taken upon themselves that
Andre's in the comments saying quickly because I got to go produce his show.
Terrible.
Why even ask me a question? Do you want an answer?
I agree. It's honestly really unfortunate that this like Embiid Jokic rivalry and like comparison that I feel like a lot of Philadelphia fans have done. It really bothers me because like I'll talk to some of my family members who are Philly fans. And I'll talk to others who are also Philly fans, but also respect Jokic. But there's some people who are so clouded with judgment. They're like, no, it has to be Jokic versus Embiid. Like, I can't think of Jokic as the player and give him credit because all I know is Jokic versus Embiid. And I'm like, but no, but then do your research and learn who Jokic is as an individual, and you will respect the hell out of this basketball player. And there are some Philadelphia fans who are like that, including Darren. But there are others, like some family members I have, who I'm definitely like, what? Why are you making this intense rivalry like such a big thing? Like, you should be able to like Embiid as a basketball player, sucks all the injuries he has, and you should be able to like Jokic as a basketball player, who is the MVP of the NBA this season. Yeah.
They do the same thing with Rudy Gobert. Every rival big man is a fake rival to the Philadelphia 76ers.
I don't follow the Sixers very clearly, so to me it's just annoying as hell.
Andre, nobody cares about your timeline, Andre. No one cares about your timeline.
Me and Allie are on his timeline as well. Also, I choose to hate Embiid and Gobert and all those centers because of Jokic, which might make me a bad person, but I personally enjoy it.
No, it makes you a fan, and that's why, like, it's something that we'll end with this topic, something that Eric and I've talked about very recently with with the Rockies and everything. Fans can be a lot, like, not logical, like, loving sports creates a lot of crazy things. You might hate Embiid and Gobert and whoever because you're like, I love Jokic all the way, which makes sense. Like, sports weren't meant to be logical all the time. So let fans feel the way they want to feel. I just disagree with the Philly take from my family members personally because they're my family members, and I'm like, look at Jokic's stats. Look at this.
One of us. We won, Allie. Take that, Philly.
Eric, I'm still mad at you, but we can move on.
What Eric do?
The rivalry today of the podcast is Eric and me. Thank you guys for listening. I hope we were able to bring a little bit of a smile to your face after a very sad morning and a sad night. The bar is still popping. We've got Nuggets tonight and Nuggets on Sunday. Hopefully we get a win tonight and a win on Sunday, but it's going to be a great crowd. The weekend crowd is always awesome. Definitely go support, and Eric will be there. You can talk to him.
Yeah. You can tell me I was right later on.
No who won the week this week, Eddie. Maybe we'll get back to it next week. But thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you all next Friday. Bye.